in our culture, we don't carry out these kinds of business. But on the disadvantaged side, realize that it is going to create poor decision making. And what actually comes out of poor decision making? Because if someone was actually thinking out of an individual, and maybe their circumstance, or maybe the decisions are actually considered on what they think, on how much, because it is not necessarily meaning that if someone, if a very big group of people have actually decided, because realize when it comes to voting kinds of most people are going to just be influenced maybe by the culture leaders. If the culture leader maybe raises up their hand and they think we have to follow, that is what is actually going to happen. But it does not necessarily mean that that collectiveness, that the majority, those who have decided, is going to be the right thing. So in a world where we find that actually individualism is standing out, we're going to find faster decision making when it comes to every kind of, because not very many people are going to be involved, and most of the decisions that are going to be made are going to be made on an individual basis because someone knows what is actually best for them compared to a point in time where we find that the community is actually sorting out issues for themselves, for them. So in this, we actually say that for the fact that this collectivism has actually created some harms, we actually stand to say that we are able to, we go on to regret it because it has done some harms that we would not wish to have seen. At the end of it all, we would front for individualism, where people have that liberty to decide on what is right, not in the community, where people are just following other because they feel like we are brothers, we are maybe from the same home, we are from the same culture, we have to support them, not necessarily basing on not necessarily basing on whether it is correct or it is wrong. In this instance, we find that people actually just following up to do more harm compared to whether someone is just thinking for themselves and they're doing the right thing.
All right, the House would like to thank the Speaker for that speech. And let's welcome the Deputy Leader of Opposition to also extend their case. Hey.
Yes.
Okay.
We broke the rules and shouts out to everyone. Shouts out to Nelson and Peter that have been in the same room with us from room one. And everyone for making findings. Yeah, shouts out to Henry Beck Costa if he's there. Other than that, let me start my speech. Okay, so Chair, I think from the government side, that's from opening government, you don't have to be a case, and I think there is nothing much to engage. I think for the first speaker, literally, they have no case, the other side, they support, regret. I mean, they don't regret the existence of collectivism. And then from the second speaker, I mean, from the DPM, I think they do a bit of, okay, I'll engage what we slightly get from the side from the DPM, though even if it's not very impactful with me. I think they want to try and create some sort of confusion on how to read something. They say that you can read something even if I just a bit of disliking and stuff like that. I think just a very wrong of explaining what you read something like. You wish that thing never existed. This isn't about just dislike. It goes down to you wishing like that thing never existed. Why this is important than debate? It shows you that the kind that's why you put metrics for you. It tells you regret something when it comes out with the benefits. But then too, when those comes in and the also cannot be mitigated. And I think I'm likely going to be dwelling and showing why, given that kind of metrics that was like this is for you, we would not regret this kind of thing. But then too, I think they have a bit of things like infringement on personal interest, start deciding for you on how to kind of personal and stuff like that. I think that's like the biggest thing for them. One thing is just acting, but then two, I think just to tell you there is a delta between which kind of things society decides for you and which kind of things that you do as an individual. In our world, notice the emphasis say prominence of collectivism in African culture. Which kind of things run on that side of the house, it takes side about the entire aspect of politicization, especially when it's characterized as school, on what politicization looks like. Okay, I'll preempt what we said about get from CG. What I think CG is likely to run is the whole idea of saying, hey, we think that most likely in this sort of setting, you have other individuals that most likely are contributing, have other individuals in sort of system that most likely deny things like personal autonomy and stuff like that. We say on our end of the world, we say that with this existence of things like refugees, we do not necessarily think that people's approval or say people's interests are most likely taken away. Notice, we think that they still have ways of sort of like mechanisms. I mean, they are a society. When they are making these particular decisions, they can still carry out their voices and stuff like that. But then too, they're most likely going to find the idea of how most likely have people who contribute more than others in society. I mean, this sort of thing, we say it's an African culture setting. We think that in this sort of system, they most likely that's their identity. They don't feel like they're backing, or they don't feel like maybe say other individuals are contributing more to others than others, but that's like their identity. That is their way of doing things. They just general sort of belonging and stuff like that. Okay, I'll continue. I'll extend what we most likely get from on our side of the house. The extension here in my speech on what this tells you is the thing that is regularly happens in African countries. I'm going to do a bit of characterization on what most likely African countries look like. These are countries like most of them that have good government institutions. That is to say, governments necessarily have like strong institutions that provide like basic things for everyone, or have that like minimum standard. I mean, provide like the best things for select for most individuals. But then you have most like struggling families, individuals who are most like being challenged by this like poverty and stuff like that. You have people who are living in the poverty line. Now, why does this become important, or this problem become very important in the world? We see that in the absence of government, in the absence of government being unable to provide investments and stuff like that, you have now a platform where these individuals are still able to get the same sort of basic needs, right? They're still able to have like say at a society level, at a communal level, for them to be able to get this sort of basic needs, for them to be able to get this kind of food, right? Because it's a communal sort of thing. Notice when you drive all this, what their world looks like is a world of individualism. It means that it's every individual for himself. It means that these particular individuals then who are most likely from underprivileged families, who are most likely from maybe say humble backgrounds. What you do in that world when you ready to stop from this sort of like promise of this collectiveness, you most likely have these individuals having to fend for themselves. Who's that kind of world? This is getting them to suffer a martyr's life. And because they're going to have a one most likely are saying,
All right. That marks the end of the top half of this round. Now let's welcome the member of GAV.
Shout out to my teammate who was created for the tournament and to God who has up to the final. I begin my speech. You can take it. I begin my speech in 3, 2, 1. Chair, I think we need to be able to evaluate like if people would buy into a world that pushes the collective idea. The debate exists on the communities. What is that? What is that? When something is prominent, most likely looks like it's popularized, it's widespread to the extent that women subscribe to it and feel like it's the right thing to do, but also looks like there is a certain level of indoctrination of society, which we are going to talk about likely in our speeches. We think, Chair, the impact of this characterization is that it shows that there is a level to which to feel the autonomy that exists in status quo, or that should exist for you to live as a dignified person in society. But two, is that it restricts the individual to a particular setting. That is to say, that in your mind mentally, we think it's very important that when your mindset is restricted to a particular setting, it means that you are going to be it's going to be very hard for you to move. That is to say, that you can't easily move in terms of geographic mobility, but also your abilities and your specialties are necessarily restricted to a particular setting. Why that is bad, that even when they talk about like identity, we think that identity is simply indoctrinated into you. Identity is only good when it is something that you're when it is something that you subscribe to without indoctrination, when it is something that exists without influence, when the power that you have over yourself is vastly justified. Okay, we think there is a necessity for you to look at a counterfactual because our openness will give it to you. The counterfactual in this debate is that there is a level of individual growth. We don't run away from the fact that individuals live in a society where they want to necessarily grow themselves. I think the debate and the tension in this debate exists where the individual generally exists vis-a-vis the community interests. I think there is a level to which we are going to evaluate that. Chair, what does the world collectivism look like? This looks like modernity. It looks like modern Uganda. I as a person, you cannot force me to go and do things that I don't want, right? That is, but if at all, even when you have consented societies that look like, but okay, even when you have a society that is going to make decisions for you, you want to be able to make your own personal decisions. That is to say that in that kind of system, you are able to make decisions that impact you in the best way possible. I think the idea is on the Bible that in societies, that if individuals were given the choice to choose between both societies, where would they necessarily choose to go? A world where they are respected, or a world where they simply told them, oh, they're going to be guaranteed of peace, they're going to be guaranteed of culture, and they're going to do with each other. What is OO's biggest case? Okay. OO talks about one, sense of belonging and ownership. Chair, I think, Chair, even in collective societies, there is a leading entity. There are people that hold power over the collective. That is to say that if at all they assume that Uganda as a collective is going to exist like in a society where they have communal ownership, you still have people that have more power over those individuals. That is to say that in those societies you can't take away the fact that individuals are going to be still influenced, that there is still going to be some kind of level of influence in those societies. No. Okay, they talk about, the second idea they talk about was in the collective benefit. Firstly, is that they assume that individuals in the societies have no families or have no hearts. We think even when you are living in a society, you still have an incentive to help people to solve problems. That as a person that is living in a capitalistic society or living in this society, if I know something is, if I know I have a problem that I'm facing, I still have the incentive to solve them. That is why you have things like Bagaga Program, because they want to solve problems that exist within themselves. That's why you have things like PTAs, that's why you have things like community schools, even in capitalistic societies. We think it is vastly bad for them to assume that it's exclusive for them to have collective benefits, and it only exists when you have an indoctrination that collectivism is good. Okay, I'll take it to that. Okay, the assumption that you have is that because I am competing with you, I don't have a heart to help you or help your neighbor, right? I think, Chair, it is vastly very intuitive. But just because I am individualistic, their assumption is that because someone is individualistic, they don't have a heart or they don't have a mind to help someone, or they don't have an incentive to help someone. We think that incentive exists because first, individuals want to be looked at as good. They want to be looked at as good, like the someone they want to be looked at as a religious point society. That is so that they have an incentive to help people at a point that they have a reputation to protect. The idea here is our argument is going to be indoctrination, right? We think in their world, even with their benefits, people are always going to feel like they don't belong, right? Reason being, you are taught from a young age that this is something that is good, that is where the evidence comes in. That you are being told, no, that you are being taught that this is something that is good, but also, like, the impact of that is that you live in a world where you don't have free will, you live in a world where you have no mobility, you live in a world where you're vastly going to be taken as someone that doesn't have a trace of your own. Chair, why this brings all sense of belonging is that we are able to give you an identity that you haven't chosen. They give you an identity that you haven't chosen for yourself, but Chair, we are also able to give a relative benefit because people, even when they're individualistic, they have an incentive to show the rest of it.
All right, we thank the speaker for that speech. Now let's welcome the member of opposition.
I'd like to give my speech in 3, 2, 1. You don't regret a lifeboat when it's saving lives because it's uncomfortable, especially when it's only thing keeping them afloat. Now, in this debate, I'm going to do some sort of analysis of what has been said so far and provide to you reasons why not only opposition has won, but why our bench wins out the whole debate. Now, if you to look at opening government, the first speaker was mentioning the advantages of collectivism. So his points mainly fall out. And then, when opposition came in, their main definition of collectivism was around the idea of culture, certain cultures, certain groups of people. However, our extension is to recontextualize what is collectivism. Because collectivism is a family, collectivism is a gathering of friends, collectivism is like a group of debaters coming to discuss ideas. So that is our extension of what collectivism is in a more broader sense, and especially in Africa. So they talked about, Koji talked about how they are present with bad ideas, how an individual can process their idea faster and whatnot. However, we believe that collectivism actually accounts for this and actually does it better. How? When people come together to discuss ideas such as in a debate format, they are able to come up with